Next up, we have Madeline Langier. She is in her final year of a Bachelor of Arts degree at MacEwan University. She's passionate about learning, particularly about what makes people tick in social situations. And here she is with The Search for Eternal Youth.
So today, as you mentioned, I will be discussing or outlining the search or some of the first records on the search for eternal youth and essentially the desire to escape death. So increased longevity, in essence, is to defy nature by increasing our natural lifespan. Consequently, history suggests that increased longevity, or the ability to acquire eternal life, has long been associated with the divine or other supernatural beings. While in modern society, modern science has begun to provide what a taste that God's had, While advancements in technology and medicine and overall human intelligence have bestowed health and longevity upon much of humankind, the journey to advancements has been paved with strange and fascinating mythology and methods. The earliest known records that we have, some of the earliest known records that we have mentioning eternal youth or eternal life is found in the ancient poem about the king and demigod Gilgamesh. The epic dates back to the early Mesopotamian era, which spanned from 500 BCE to 400 CE. This epic features Gilgamesh and his human struggles against topics like death, loss, and this seemingly meaningless human existence. So in the epic, the king suffers the loss of a loved one, and in his despair, he begins this search for the cure for death. According to this historian named D. Brendan Nagel, the poem touches upon human problems such as sickness, death, fame, and unattainable desires. So one may consider the legend as aligning with the common desire to avoid this uncomfortable feeling that comes with aging and loss. But regardless of the assumptions we can make about the history, ultimately Gilgamesh fails, which is the same as will the rest of us. So in this epic, it teaches us about the mission and then ultimately the failure to capture eternal youth. In the epic encapsulates the search for longevity to escape death, while others have actually looked to avoid aging altogether. While it seems to be a simple concept, it's worth noting that the search for eternal life is different from the search for eternal youth, in that eternal life includes the functioning of the body for eternity, whereas eternal youth is much more focused on superficial beauty. The Byzantine Empress Zoe Porphyrogenita demonstrated a desire for eternal youth rather than a desire for eternal life. She was alive during the 1st century, and historians describe her as entirely committed to formulating cosmetic extracts, committed to eternal youth. Apparently, according to history, she installed elaborate laboratories in her private quarters in her palace, where she spent most of her time manufacturing drugs and perfumes. According to sources, due to this, she actually maintained her youth well into her 60s. And as is the case with many today, Empress Zoe was believed to have dyed her hair and spent a great deal of time applying cosmetics to lighten her skin. However, in this era, Byzantine women were not naturally fair-skinned. Thus, it was not entirely uncommon for the women to lighten their skin using cosmetics such as chalk and white lead to achieve the Greek and Roman standard of beauty, which was a pure white skin. So obviously these methods were poisonous. However, the women were aware and were often willing to overlook these procedures to obtain beauty, which you could argue is not entirely unlike some of the treatments we see in contemporary societies. During the life of Empress Zoe, the treatment to obtain eternal youth included seemingly extreme treatments. However, youth often aligns closely with beauty in our society, and it's not simple to keep a hold of that beauty as we age. Many of us are familiar with TV shows that discuss botched surgeries and attempts to chase this eternal youth. We can see how historically as well as today, the appearance of youth well into old age aligns closely with value in society and therefore the desire for longevity. However, the obsession with beauty and eternal youth cannot be considered the same as the desire for longevity. For the Empress, the quest for eternal youth dominated her life, which is not at all the same as the desire for more immortality, or more realistically, a much longer lifespan than normal. Where am I here? So, as we have discussed, Gilgamesh and Empress Zoe are just two of the people throughout history who attempted to search for eternal youth. We also have records of Alexander the Great, who was believed to have spent much of his time searching for a river of paradise to prevent aging. In the 5th century BCE, a Greek historian, Herodias, described a fountain responsible for extending the lives of Macrobians who lived in northern Africa. During the 12th century CE, legends circulated of a European king named Prester John, who supposedly ruled a kingdom containing the only fountain of youth. But I guess at that same time, the rivers flowed with gold. So how much of this can we really believe? Tales of hot springs, also capable of repairing injuries, have been consistent in Japan. There's a long history and traditions of attempting to escape the clutches of age and death, and some of them continue today. Specifically and particularly well known is the legend of the Fountain of Youth. The Fountain of Youth is often associated with a Spanish explorer named Juan Ponce de Leon, and he was believed to explore parts of the Caribbean in the late 15th century. There's a lot of allegations that essentially, this was not real. He ended up landing in Florida and thought he was in Spain. And for some reason, this modern history continued, and it accepted that Ponce de Leon discovered the Fountain of Youth. However, was actually one of the first people to connect Ponce de Leon was a Spanish historian who was believed to not like him, and started a rumor that he searched for the Fountain of Youth to cure sexual impotence. So that's men just being rude to each other in the 19th century. And now today we have the Fountain of Youth mythology. So less than 100 years after this, another legend came about of a gruesome history of a Hungarian Countess, Elizabeth Bathory. She was said to have pursued prolonged youth. Bathory's second husband died, leaving her a massive fortune, and rumors began to swirl about her kidnapping and torturing young women. During this time, rumors also surfaced that she would bathe the blood of virgin maidens in hopes of discovering her lost youth. Although there's no hard evidence to suggest Bathory bathed in the blood of virgins, written historical records recall Bathory's arrest in 1611, and trial documents reaffirm these accusations made against her. The legend of Blood Countess should be considered carefully, as the first mentions of Bathory's bloodbaths came 100 years after her death. Further, modern scholarship has questioned the allegations' veracity entirely. This is because Bathory was a powerful woman, made more so by inheriting her husband's fortune. Bathory would go on to be known as the Blood Countess, and is often considered the inspiration for the legend of Count Dracula. Legend of the Virgin Bloodbath often continues today, Specifically interesting is that we understand the lack of evidence to suggest bathing in the blood of virgins. We understand there's a lack of evidence to suggest bathing in the blood of virgins will somehow magically make us youthful. However, today we have something called vampire facelifts, where professionals extract the blood from patients and put it through a procedure and place the blood on the face of the person paying for this procedure. So obviously today we are grateful that the focus is more on plasma than virginity. So today the quest for longevity typically coincides with a much more attainable search for eternal youth. As Thomas mentioned, in December of 2016, scientists at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies announced that they found a way to reverse the signs of aging. This process is called cellular reprogramming, and it has actually extended the lives of mice involved in the study, which has allowed them to live longer without experiencing the signs of aging. This study's success has actually led some researchers to call cellular programming this study success has led some researchers to call cellular reprogramming the real fountain of youth. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madeline. My question is given that myth has influenced this search for immortality and the search for eternal youth as well, is there any good examples of myth influencing the types of technologies or means to immortality that we pursue? Are there things that have been left out of our search because of the way that our searches have been influenced by those things?
I would say that, I hope this answers your question. Much of the research does tend to focus on superficial elements of immortality. And as I mentioned, the research about the blood countess is the one that I would say that aligns the most. However, most of the history about immortality and longevity lies in mythical elements. There's limited elements that translate effectively to modern science. However, I would say that there tends to be a distinction in history between those who are searching for longevity purely for spiritual reasons and those that are committed to it for scientific reasons. And in my research, I mostly focused on the spiritual and metaphysical reasons or pursuits for longevity.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.